Someone once made you feel like you were never quite enough, like no matter how hard you tried, how much you gave, it still wasn't worthy of their respect. And for a while, you accepted that. You handed them pieces of yourself, your loyalty, your energy, your attention, until the moment everything shifted. You made a decision. You stopped reaching out. You stopped making yourself available. You quietly removed the door they had always walked through without knocking. In the beginning, the stillness feels strange. You wait for the explosion, the accusations, the dramatic comeback, but it never arrives. What replaces it is something unexpected, a gradual loosening. The grip they had on your thoughts, your moods, your daily life begins to weaken. The anxiety they planted in you starts to shrink. And then you realize something no one told you about. When a person has built their entire sense of power around your reactions, losing those reactions costs them something they cannot replace. They don't respond with growth. They don't respond with honesty. They respond in ways that finally show you exactly who they always were. Some will reach back with a softer version of themselves, suddenly warm, suddenly reasonable, suddenly full of explanations. Others will turn cold, try to punish you with silence or harsh words or rumors. But neither works anymore, because you've already seen the pattern. You already know the playbook. And here is what changes everything. Your withdrawal becomes a truth they cannot argue with. The limits you set become a wall they cannot climb. And for the first time, they are forced to sit with themselves, without you to redirect, to blame, to absorb their chaos. You begin to notice the difference in your own life. The mental noise quiets down. The emotional exhaustion that became your normal starts to lift. The invisible weight you were carrying, their needs, their moods, their version of who you were supposed to be, all of it begins to dissolve. You start reclaiming hours of your day. Thoughts that used to spiral around them start pointing back toward you, toward your goals, your healing, your actual life. And while that happens for you, something very different is happening for them. The power they relied on is no longer responding. The influence they assumed was permanent turns out to have had an expiration date. And that date was the moment you stopped engaging. Their carefully maintained image, built on the foundation of your compliance, starts to crack. Without someone to dominate, without someone to keep small, they have nothing to stand on. The confidence that looks so solid from the outside reveals itself to be entirely borrowed. Borrowed from your self-doubt, your patience, your willingness to keep showing up, and now you've taken it back. Underneath all the control, underneath all the charm they used to draw people in, there is an emptiness they were always running from, and now, without your energy to fill it, they have to face it. That is not something you caused. That was always there. You just stopped covering it up for them. Meanwhile, you are discovering something on the other side of all this. Space. Real, open, breathable space. Room to think without second-guessing everything. Room to feel without being told your feelings are wrong. Room to simply exist without performing for someone else's comfort. And then comes the part that redefines everything. The final loss, not just of your presence, but of your energy. The consistent, reliable supply of emotional investment they treated as their right. They wanted everything you offered, but none of the responsibility that should have come with it. They wanted your patience without earning it, your forgiveness without changing, your presence without offering anything real in return. Now that supply is cut off. The messages that once made you drop everything go ignored. The emotional pressure they applied to bend your decisions no longer reaches you. The tactics that used to work have lost their target because you rebuilt your boundaries, not just as words, but as a lived reality. And those boundaries have made you someone they simply cannot access anymore. And in that loss, something cracks inside them. The assumption that you would always be there. The certainty that they could always pull you back. The belief that your value to them meant you would never truly leave. All of it dissolves the moment they realize, this time is different. This time, it's real. They may try once more to recover the ground they lost. A familiar smile, a well-timed message, a moment designed to make you question your decision. But it no longer lands the same way because you are no longer the same person. You see it now, clearly, without the confusion they counted on. You are no longer their source, and the version of power they built around you is gone. Not destroyed dramatically, but simply outgrown. Here is the truth that matters most. When someone who took from you loses access to everything they were taking, your time, your focus, your emotional presence, that is not something you did to punish them. That is something you did to protect yourself. It is not revenge. It is not cruelty. It is self-respect made visible. You no longer absorb their instability. You no longer shrink to make them comfortable. You no longer apologize for things that were never your fault, and they are left holding the full weight of choices they made, choices you used to help them avoid the consequences of. Their influence gone, their control dissolved, their access to the most valuable thing they ever had, which was you, permanently closed. No explanation they offer can reopen that door. No performance, no apology calculated to manipulate, no version of themselves designed to make you doubt. None of it is enough anymore, because what they lost was never really theirs. It was something they took, and you finally took it back. And here is the most important part. You do not need to watch what happens to them. You do not need to track their reaction or wait for acknowledgement that will probably never come. You do not owe them a final conversation or a formal goodbye or a detailed explanation of your worth. Your life moving forward is the only statement that matters. The way you grow, the way you breathe easier, the way you start showing up for yourself, the way you once showed up for them, that is the proof. Not of what they did wrong, but of who you actually are when no one is diminishing you. Because sometimes the most powerful response to someone who hurt you is not confrontation. It is not anger. It is not even forgiveness spoken out loud. It is simply this: you stop handing them what they never deserved to have. And in that single, quiet act, you become someone they no longer have the ability to reach. Grounded, clear, fully your own, and free. If this spoke to you, please like, share, comment, and subscribe.